mark since the 2000s,
delivering our hottest takes along the way.
Deuce Chestnut will be Syracuse's next NFL-ready cornerback. This kid has it.
If this team doesn't go to a bowl game, say goodbye to Dino Babers.
Get your voice heard by calling in at 315-443-2011 or by tweeting us at WAER Sports Talk. It's the double overtime, and it starts right now.
Syracuse 37, Wake Forest 40. You are listening to the double overtime here on WAER. 315-443-2011 is the number to dial, or tweet at us at WAER Sports Talk. We're on the air until 8:30. I'm Tyler Melito, joined by my good friend, and hopefully yours as well, Brad Klein.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to be here because I would say this is the game of the year, right? And no person I'd rather talk about the game of the year with than my good friend Tyler Melito here. Game of the year, and it's because this was the biggest game on the schedule, and that's an indictment of the ACC, right? Number 19, Wake Forest, being the Goliath of your 2021 calendar. But being at home, family weekend, coming off a disappointing loss in the ACC opener, man, this was a chance. This was a big chance for Syracuse, and they couldn't capitalize. And boy, did they have their chances in this game.
They had so many chances, and there were so many moments during the game where we're just sitting there and listening to Ian Unsworth and Tim Nolan on the call, scratching our heads, be like, what is Syracuse doing? And ultimately, it comes out into an overtime loss. They're now 3-3 on the year, the Orange were. And you mentioned it. The ACC has been horrible all season. This is the biggest game of the year, and Syracuse just dropped a major egg, and I don't know how they're going to bounce back from that, especially given the fact that there's just so much that went wrong.
A lot went wrong, and you mentioned before we wanted to do instant reactions. Man, my instant reaction was how wrong everyone is about this football team.
Yeah.
Everyone, including myself, including Matt Bonaparte, the sports talk director. Going into this season, what was the strength of this team?
Throwing the ball.
Wrong.
What would you say it was?
Defense.
Okay, fair.
The 3-3-5.
Fair.
All the young secondary, all the young defensive backs coming back, they're going to be better. Even though you lose Cisco, you lose Williams, you lose Melifonwu, all the guys are going to be really good, and Tony White's 3-3-5 is going to work out. Cool. And then what? What's the weakness? The offense.
Yeah.
The offensive line. They score 37 points, Tyler, and lose? And lose. All of a sudden, this defense, it's a liability.
Major liability. And given the fact that the ACC is so weak, and Syracuse's defense, they had some... Oh, I'm getting a text from Matt Bonaparte right now that we have Ron in Rochester who wants to talk to us. Ron?
Hello.
Ron, you're welcome to the double overtime.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I just wanted to talk about how your host said this was game of the year. How could this be game of the year? It's Wake Forest. My mother doesn't even know what Wake Forest is. Liberty was the game of the year. They won the game. They kicked the field goal. This game no one will even remember in weeks.
Hold on, Ron. Are you telling me that your mother knows Liberty and not Wake Forest?
My mother's going to know who Malik Willis is pretty soon.
Pretty soon, but not right now. Not right now, and no one knows who Liberty is. That's kind of the whole point, right? And maybe you should because they're good, but Wake Forest is ranked and Liberty ain't.
When has Wake Forest been good before this year? When were they building up the goodwill?
Who cares? When was Liberty good before Malik Willis? What are we talking about here, Ron?
Look, I just think you need to stop throwing around game of the year willy-nilly, all right? It's week 5. There's a lot more games left.
I totally understand where you're coming from, Ron. Thank you so much for the call. I think what Brad meant by game of the year is the fact that this is probably going to be the only ranked opponent that Syracuse will play in 2021.
Look out for NC State, too.
Possibly NC State. They have looked good so far early on in the season, but since Clemson, they have not performed up to expectation so far. This has been, of the first 6 weeks, Syracuse's best opponent in terms of the highest ranking. That's what makes it the game of the year. I understand where you're coming from, though. Liberty, from a win standpoint, that was Syracuse's best game, but that's what I think where Brad was coming from. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I mean, look, if we're going to define biggest game of the year as biggest win of the year, yeah, Syracuse beat Liberty and they lost to Wake Forest, but this was their biggest chance. And look, beating Liberty was a good moment.
Yeah.
Good moment. Nice little bounce back from last year. Malik Willis didn't really look like Malik Willis against that 3-3-5. By the way, we were wrong. It was deceptively good, that defense. and we'll get to that later. But to tell me that a win over not only the number 19 team in the country on family weekend would have been big, but, man, this is an ACC team.
Yeah.
This is what you play for. This is why you play Liberty.
This is why we left the Big East to get to the
You
ACC.
play Liberty to get ready for these games. That's the whole point. All roads lead to this, and you lose. And it's the biggest game of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And Syracuse is going to have to bite that bullet. Now, after the Rutgers loss, down heads, slumped shoulders in the locker room, Dino Babers was A1 on that list. Should he have been? Probably not, right? It was a bad loss. It was a big missed opportunity, not even close to as big as this one.
Yeah, I totally agree. But let's get back to the issue at hand, or I guess the topic at hand, that instant reaction. Let's talk about first the last drive of regulation Syracuse did to set up the touchdown. Obviously, they got very lucky with the unnecessary roughness call on Garrett Schrader getting out of bounds. Probably would not have scored a touchdown had that play not happened, had that penalty not happened. But then they score the touchdown, and they decide to go for 2 originally.
Yep.
And then the delay of game. Here's my biggest issue. This has been a trend now for 6 weeks. The clock management of this program is atrocious. Dino Babers has shown time and time again that, and I don't know if I'm putting the blame on him because he is the head man, but we need to start holding Dino accountable. And I've been told that we have Bill from East Syracuse wanted to talk about an earlier Dino miscue. So I think we should bring Bill on.
He wants to hold Dino accountable.
Let's bring him. Bill from East Syracuse, welcome to the Double Overtime.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I just thought that the accepting, penalty right before halftime, or it gave Wake Forest another chance to get a first down, and they got it, and then they scored a touchdown. I thought that's what cost them the game. It was kind of greedy making that call.
Yeah, and you're totally right on that, in my opinion. And Brad, I think we were talking about it before the show as well. We agree. Like, why are you giving a team an extra opportunity to go for it on third down when it was going to be they were on the 35-yard line, it was going to be near a 50-yard field goal? I get it. Skiba's good for Wake Forest. I don't know if he's that good. College kickers, they're not the most automatic thing in the world.
No, he's never even attempted one over 50 yards.
Exactly.
Well, Nick Skiba is a top 5 kicker in the history of college football in terms of efficiency. There's that. But look, I mean, and Bill, I really appreciate the call because it's a really good point, right?
Thank you.
Dino made the wrong decision, 20/20 hindsight. But I think the path to understand where he's coming from, very clear. Dino stayed on 17 against an 8.
Yeah.
That's what you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Bad situation.
Great
right?
analogy, by the way.
Thank you. I'm all in on the blackjack analogies, okay? So he stayed on 17 against an 8. What do I mean by that? Well, he accepted the penalty and took the 10 yards thinking that his defense was going to come up with a stop. They didn't. Now, the reason he's playing by the book here is because of what I said earlier. We were led to believe that the strength of this team is their defense. And over the past 2 weeks, that's far from the truth. And that's important because over the past 2 weeks, that's your entire ACC schedule. So Dino Babers is saying, hey, if someone's going to win me this football game, it's going to be my defense. But it turns out the defense lost Syracuse the football game. Or, if you want to go deeper, Dino lost the football game.
Yeah, I definitely think you can make the argument there either way. I'm curious where you stand on this. Who do you blame for the defense's failures from time to time on that 3rd and 23 play? Throughout the game, there were some bad calls. Do you blame the players, the inexperienced secondary? Do you blame Tony White? Do you blame Dino?
Yes. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
The blame can
it's not
go
just
all
one
over
person.
the place. Dino put the defense in a position to fail because they had already succeeded, right? They had you want another blackjack analogy?
Sure.
Dino split tens. He had won, right? I mean,
Yeah.
basically you have a 4th down and long, and he wanted 4th down and longer. He wanted 2 wins on one hand.
Too greedy.
Just win and walk away,
Yeah.
right? So Dino's at fault there. Tony White could have had a better play call, and maybe there could have been better execution. I didn't see too many missed tackles, which is something we saw a lot of last year, especially in the open field. That wasn't really the issue today, so it's hard to say, the players messed it up.
It was more blown coverages today, if anything.
Right, and that's going to happen, especially when you're playing a true freshman on the edge, right? In Deuce Chestnut. That's going to happen, and those are growing pains that Dino Babers is more than willing to accept. It's something he's been very vocal about all year.
Yeah, and only time will tell. I think that's what Syracuse fans also got to keep in mind. This is a very young secondary, especially, so they're going to continue to grow. It's not all going to happen overnight. As much as we as fans and as media members want it to be overnight, it's just not going to happen. But I want to, first of all, 315-443-2011, the number to the dial. Call into the show or tweet at us at WAER Sports Talk. We'd love to get your opinions. Brad is already he's all for the opinions.
Yeah, I mean that's our job.
Other
tonight,
than my
right?
own.
But this is my opinion, right? And I've already documented that Syracuse's defense not as good as we thought it was, and that's a problem. Here's the solution: Dino has to think on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
He had a game plan going into the season: win games with your defense, offense treads water. It's the opposite right now. Can he think on the fly? Next week against Clemson, is he going to manage the game differently, knowing that the offense right now has more credibility and he should have more trust in Garrett Schrader's legs than Michael Jones's arm tackles?
Arm bands, you should say.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. The offense is rolling right now, so you got to shift gears and pay more attention to that. Use that to your advantage. I do want to talk about the overtime a little bit more.
Yeah.
So first, Syracuse gets the ball. They start off strong. They get a first down and get some yards, and then you have the big sack. Schrader gets sacked for 9-yard loss. That ultimately forces Andre Schmidt to kick a field goal instead of them having maybe an opportunity to go for it on fourth down and get a touchdown. Wake Forest responds, 2 plays, bada bing, bada boom, 22-yard touchdown to A.T. Perry, who had a monster game, 3 touchdowns.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think that Syracuse, where do you think that went wrong? Do you think it's on the offensive line, or do you think it's on Schrader for trying to do too much? Because I think that he is running into that a little bit, where he sees his first read, doesn't get it, and go.
Look, this is a pretty good Wake Forest football team, and defensively, they're better than they were today. They made a play. That's what it comes down to. They made a play on an injured offensive line with Aaron Service not able to play the entire game wire to wire, and Garrett Schrader was sacked. By the way, he was only sacked twice, and for someone who has the entire offense on his shoulders with the exception of what Sean Tucker did, which was a lot, but it's still a lot of pressure on Garrett Schrader. 2 sacks behind this offensive line.
Major win given what last season in 2019 was.
Tommy DeVito was sacked 20 times in 4 games last season, and one of those, he didn't even play the entire game. Why? Because he got hurt, because he kept on getting sacked. So 2 sacks in 4+ quarters? I'll accept it. It happens.
1,000%. I've been told we have Craig from New Jersey with some thoughts and opinions on the going for 2 play at the end of regulation. Craig, welcome to the double overtime.
No. Hi, guys. I'm driving back to New Jersey from the game with my buddy Ricky.
Have a safe drive.
You know what? I respect that grind. That's not close. How many hours is that? Because I'm a good 4 hours.
It's a 4-hour drive. But we talked Syracuse sports the whole way, so it's okay.
Oh, okay. So it flies by, and plus you get the double overtime to take you to 8:30.
Right. And I was an AER guy for a very short time, and then I switched to the DO. But I always love you guys.
Wrong choice. Hang up.
Hey, we love the DO. We love the DO. What do you want to talk about, Craig?
Here's my objection. 28-27 in the third quarter. There's 2 minutes to go. It doesn't make points are at a premium. It does you no good to be up 3 points. 2 points is in 3 points. It's not as if that's going to be the last score of the game. And if we go up 2, then when we score the touchdown at the end, we don't go to overtime. It just made no sense to me. I couldn't, at the time, I said, this is ridiculous. Why are we going for 2? And we didn't get it. And that point turned out to be crucial.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, Craig. Thank you so much for the call. And that is actually a very interesting point. Another, I guess, indictment on this Syracuse offensive and Dino Babers decision-making type thing. That going for 2 there, it probably wouldn't have done much. I think what Dino was going for was force Wake Forest to kick a field goal to tie it versus win it if the score was to stay the same. But once again, it was that play call. They should have called a better play. Garrett Schrader was put in no position to succeed on that one. He threw a pass that was it was a very bad pass in my opinion.
I don't understand how a 2-point lead is better than 3.
Right, it would have been a 1-point lead, 27-26, or a 3-point lead.
No, I get that. They had a 1-point lead. And look, if you're going to say, oh, well, they didn't get the 2-point conversion. If they took the 1 point, then they would have won in regulation. That's not true. Come on. That's not true at all. The game would have been managed differently. There are 4 more possessions to be had. Wake Forest probably would have gone for 2. And the way this defense is playing, Damon Deacons are getting those 3 yards for the 2 points. I'm sorry. I disagree. I mean, look, we can talk about Dino Babers till 8:30. That's fine. If that's what Syracuse wants to do, that's what we're going to do. But I'm going to defend him when he gets to be defended and when he should be defended, and I'm going to rip him when he should too. That's fine. I would have done that. Also, was a 45-yard field goal that Andre Schmidt missed?
Yeah.
I would have done that too.
I would have done that. I
would have kicked.
But enough about Dino. Let's move on. Coming up after the break, we'll talk more about the play of the Pepsi player of the game, and Garrett Schrader, a guy who I think has really started to turn some heads. He's definitely turned mine. Stay with us right here on the Double Overtime here on WAER.
Garrett Schrader got it done in the air and on the ground against Wake Forest.
Schrader gets the snap, trucks forward, breaks one tackle, he's still moving, and he's into the end zone. Touchdown Syracuse. Garrett Schrader lowers the shoulder and makes magic.
Now we go back to your host of the Double Overtime, Brad Klein and Tyler Melito.
40-37, Syracuse falls in overtime, and Garrett Schrader, he was really good, as advertised, right? And look, Brad Klein, Tyler Melito with you from the Ostrom Avenue studios. I think everyone here at WAER slightly disappointed with the result here. And why? Because you score 37 points at home, you expect to win that game.
In what's called the Loud Hats. You feel like that would be the ultimate advantage. That's why I was talking to some friends prior to today, be like, oh, Syracuse, they have a little bit better of a chance simply because they're at home.
Sure. Yeah, and they're always going to have a good chance because of Garrett Schrader, right?
Oh, yeah.
And what he's done, that Mississippi State transfer, took the job from Tommy DeVito. By the way, not what we're talking about right now, but it's worth mentioning. Tommy DeVito's going to transfer, dude. He is so gone. No chance he comes back. He's gone.
Yeah, that's and just given the fact that DeVito is older than Schrader,
he's gone.
And now that he's lost, Taj Harris is gone, Jarvion Howard is gone.
Yeah.
DeVito, it just makes sense. And I feel bad for the guy because he just was put in a bad spot time and time and time. But let's talk about Garrett Schrader. An amazing
Garrett Schrader. Garrett Schrader nets 178 yards, nearly 180 on the ground alone. One touchdown to at the 24-yard carry to highlight it. But, man, Garrett Schrader outruns Sean Tucker for the second consecutive week. Whoever had that, congratulations. I'll have whatever you're having, right? Because Schrader has been fantastic, and we knew he was going to be good on the ground. I don't think we understood that he was going to be this good on the ground. But I have a very similar takeaway to the one I had after Florida State, which was I'm actually more impressed with his arm.
I am slowly gaining more. He's proving me wrong time and time again with his arm. Like you said, we knew he was going to be good on the ground. He has that ability. He has great instincts running the ball. But now that we've seen him throw the ball, 160 yards, 15 to 27 for 55% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns.
2 tutties.
No turnovers.
No turnovers is important. And the thing is, look, 15 for 27, you do the math, that's 56%. That's not very good. 160 yards, that's not very good. But when you complement it with 180 on the ground and a tutty of your own,
exactly,
it's looking good, right? And Garrett Schrader doesn't have to be that good. By the way, the number to call is 315-443-2011. And follow us on Twitter. Check it out at WAER Sports Talk. He doesn't have to be that good in the air. If he's good enough on the ground, then the aerial attack's going to open up, and 160 yards is going to be more than enough, which it was. 37 points. That's a win for the offense. It's a big win.
There are no moral victories, and I'm sure Dino Babers will say that in his press conference. I'm sure he'll say that to his team. But that is a moral victory. The fact that Garrett Schrader, he is continuing to get better. He's leading this offense. I was very skeptical of Garrett Schrader. I thought that given what we've seen from Dino Babers in the past, running this fast-paced offense, throwing the ball with high volume, that this ground and pound game would not necessarily work with this offensive line.
I mean, it's a different playbook.
It's completely different.
It's a completely different offense, completely different playbook with Garrett Schrader and Tommy DeVito, which isn't really fair.
Yeah.
It's it. I think he would have succeeded. Not to the level of Schrader, but I think he would have had a pretty good time with it, to be honest.
I think he would have enjoyed himself a lot more.
He would have had fun.
He would have had a lot more fun. I think the thing with Garrett Schrader, though, what I want to see next, and it doesn't have to be necessarily next week, but for the rest of the season, is he tends to get locked onto one target And then if his one target isn't there, his first option, he pulls the ball down and runs.
315-443-2011. What do you think about Tyler's assessment to Garrett Schrader and his reads? And look, I understand that he's a one-look and then scramble and improvise guy, but how could you not be with how effective he's been? Right now, if I'm Sterling Gilbert, if I'm Dino Babers, I'm not changing anything. And it sounds crazy because he's not a perfect quarterback, so why wouldn't you change anything in an imperfect quarterback? It's because you scored 37 points against the best team in the ACC right now. Indisputable. Best team in the ACC. 37 points. That's a lot.
I'm trying to do some quick math here, but they scored 27 against Liberty in Schrader's first start.
Sure.
30 last week, right? Yeah, so that's 57.
30.
And then 37 today. 94 points in Garrett Schrader's 3 starts.
That's outstanding.
Yeah, that's very good. He's commanding this offense to a T. And I am also concerned the injury possibility, just because he does take so many hits. But we saw the success it had in 2018 with Eric Dungy. I'm not saying that Garrett Schrader's Eric Dungy level yet.
Why not? What's the difference?
Dungy had the experience. He had been in this offense for 4 years. Garrett Schrader's been here for 4 months.
But Dungy was a great quarterback because of what he could do with his legs. He wasn't going for 180 yards on the ground. Sometimes he would, I guess.
But Dungy also had better receivers to throw to.
Sure. He had Amba Edetawu for like a year.
He had Jamal Custis. He had Tosh Harris for a little bit. He had, I'm now blanking.
It's also a relatively different offense, for sure.
It's definitely a different offense. But I am excited to see what Garrett Schrader has done. I'm excited what he has done, and I'm excited to see what he will continue to do. Clemson next week is going to be a very interesting task because of that defensive front, although it hasn't been great. But I think right now Syracuse fans, they could be happy with how Garrett Schrader has performed so far and not be as stressed out, not be as mad as Dino Babers for putting Schrader in over DeVito. I think we're in good hands as a Syracuse collective that Garrett Schrader is the quarterback for the time being.
315-443-2011. That's the number to call if you want to get your voice heard on Garrett Schrader. And there's a lot to talk about. Of course, the ground game. I'll tell you what, 15 completions, that's not an infinite amount to go around, but he spread the love pretty well. Courtney Jackson with 5 catches. And by the way, Jackson with 11 catches over his last 2 weeks. This has been a career stretch for Courtney Jackson, and it couldn't have come at a better time with Tosh Harris now in the portal. Anthony Quealy had 2 catches. Had a touchdown for the second straight week, right? And Sean Tucker is still a pretty good receiving back.
Had the game winner.
Sure.
Or the game tire.
So, I mean, look, a lot of people were apprehensive aerially for many reasons, for many good reasons.
Mm-hmm.
You lose your best receiver in Tosh Harris. You sit your best pass thrower in Tommy DeVito. And I don't care if you're Team Garrett or Team Tommy, that's indisputable. The football, I don't care. I don't care.
Now, quickly before we go to break, because I hear we have John Eads coming on soon, and I'm very excited. And I'm looking at him right now. He looks very dapper. I know you can't see him on radio, but we'll get to that later. I was going with this internal monologue, or kind of outward monologue with our rest of our WAER crew during that last drive. Should they have put Tommy DeVito in because of the throwing ability, needing the fact that they had to go so far down the field? Garrett Schrader proved me wrong there.
Yeah.
Once again.
Well, that's a very good point, because I think an indictment or a critique or a misconception of Garrett Schrader's offense is that, it might score, but how are you going to move the ball quickly? And he did. He ran a 2-minute drive. Well, they score. And look, Garrett Schrader put Syracuse in a position to win that football game.
Yeah.
And they lost. And it's not because of him.
Not 100% on him.
I'll tell you what. Tommy DeVito loses this game by 2 possessions.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you have something against Tommy DeVito?
Well, I mean, besides the fact that Garrett Schrader is better at football than him? No, not really. No, I feel bad for the guy.
I do.
You mentioned it before. I feel bad for the guy. But there is something to be said for the way the football was moved. Garrett Schrader can do that, and Tommy DeVito cannot. And that's the bottom line. 315-443-2011. That's the number to call. Breaking down Syracuse's narrow overtime 3-point loss. I'm Brad Klein. He's Tyler Melito. Still a lot to get to. Too much elbow room here in the studio. Let's get John Eads in to break it down on the other side. You're listening to the Double Overtime on WAER.
Syracuse football moves to 0-2 in conference play with a loss to Wake Forest.
Roberson in motion from near to far side. It's a give. Beal Smith finds a hole, wiggles through the Syracuse defensive line, dives forward, and he's into the end zone. Touchdown, Wake Forest.
Now, our reporter John Eads joins the double overtime to give his takes on the game.
You heard it, John Eads. Now here on the double overtime. If you want to call and ask a question to John, 315-443-2011. Number of the dial, or you can tweet at us at WAER Sports Talk. I'm Tyler Melito. Brad Klein's got a couple questions as well. But, John, I want to get first thing started. Syracuse falls in overtime, 40-37. What was your instant reaction when you saw that game-winning touchdown by Wake Forest?
I'm not a big believer in more win the game, so I love the aggressive mentality from Dino Babers. I think this program is in a good spot this season. Unfortunately, this is SU's third loss of the year by a combined 16 points now, and at the end of the year, you're going to look back on this game and think, what if, and same with the last one.
That's a good point, and John Eads here. He was in the Dome for the entire game, including overtime. Crazy time to be alive, right, John? And this was nuts, and you're right. This was a missed opportunity for Syracuse. Side question, not my actual question. Was this the game of the year? Was this the biggest game of the year?
I think it was.
Just trying
Family
to settle
weekend.
a dispute between me and a caller.
Yeah, no, I think I'm with you there. It's a little close, but I think Wake Forest is probably the best team in the ACC this year, so, vis-a-vis.
Amen to that. Hey, Liberty, too. You got to look out for Liberty.
Sure,
all right,
sure.
Here's the
It was
bottom
a great
line, though.
game, Liberty.
We all understand that they lost this game. They give up 40 points at home to Wake Forest. Yeah. And whether they're the best team in the ACC or not, it's Wake Forest, okay? So it's the defense, all of a sudden, that is under the microscope. Loaded question, what's going on with the 3-3-5? What's wrong?
I think it was good today from a containment perspective. Wake Forest couldn't run the ball at all, and that's something they do very well, especially entering today's game. The big problem today for Tony White's 3-3-5 defense was the big plays. Getting caught in one-on-one coverage, guys like Jason Simmons, Garrett Williams getting beat downfield. We haven't seen that all season. But you got guys like A.T. Perry, Jakari Roberson, big athletic guys that can burn you easily. And now, you could say that Syracuse didn't get any pass rush on those plays, and that's why those big plays happened. But just that in itself, the big plays we haven't seen all season, and every time Wake Forest went deep and wanted to cash in on one, they did.
A.T. Perry, 3 catches, 137 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Jakari Roberson, 9 catches, 135 yards, 0 touchdowns. It was that's a poor showing by the SU secondary, but they could bounce back. John, being in the Dome, obviously, so Syracuse, they drive down at the end to force overtime. But there was a drive before that where we thought that was going to be the drive where Syracuse makes it all the way down. But Cooper Lutz fumbles on his second carry of the game.
Yeah.
What was your thought?
I felt bad for the kid because, like you said, it was only his second carry of the game, and he had a pretty nice one earlier on in the contest on a nice little jet sweep. And really, I don't think it should have happened because Abdul Adams didn't even play. He's been Syracuse's running back, too, for the entire season. So you take Sean Tucker out of the game for one play. The guy gets 25 carries. Of course, Schrader had 25-plus as well, almost 30 today. And you bring Glutz in for one play, and of course he fumbles it, turns it over. Now Syracuse did have a chance in the ensuing drive, and they took advantage of that to tie the game. So I wouldn't put a ton of stock in that, but Syracuse has some serious issues at running back right now, depth-wise, especially with Abdul Adams out.
And Jarvion Howard now out of the program as well. Kennedy from Syracuse calling in, wanting to talk about going for 2. So Kennedy, welcome to the Overtime. You're joined by myself, Tyler Melito, Brad Klein, and John Eads. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, guys. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we hear you loud and clear. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear also.
All righty, what do you got?
Game of the year.
All right, so, I'm a long-time Syracuse, and I watched our Syracuse team from the season because we wasn't expected to be this close with the number 19 team in the country. We had them, and with that long drive, the defense was tired. And with Schrader, how he moves and runs, I mean, we could have got that. It's either like a win or done because when the guy came in for the running back and he fumbled the ball, I really said, that's it. The game is over. But then when we drove down and got the touchdown, so I was saying, why not go for the win? Because overall, Wake Forest is a better team. Why play them another whole quarter? Just go for it and get it done. That was just that's what my thought, and that's what I thought we should have did.
It's a really good point, and thank you for the call, Kennedy. Look, I know where I stand on this. Garrett Schrader seems like the prototypical quarterback to get you a 2-point conversion, get you those crucial 3 yards. But the thing is, about those calls, for Dino Babers especially, it's a very much, hey, you weren't there thing, right? You're on the sideline, you're in the dome, you're feeling the atmosphere, you know the situation, you feel it. That's how you make the call. Jeez, you were there.
They wanted to go for the 2-point conversion, and they were lined up to do so.
Right.
Then they got flagged for the delay of game, and then they couldn't at that point.
Here's the two-parter. First of all, I'm pretty sure I understand this correctly. You think it was a good call to even think about going for 2. I agree. Tyler?
Here's my one thing with going for 2. I was watching the Ole Miss Arkansas game before the Syracuse game. Arkansas went for 2, failed to get it, and they lost the game. So I was thinking overtime, you're in your own stadium, go for it. But I think Syracuse had the advantage to go for it.
I think it's different, though, because this is kind of a nothing-to-lose situation for Dino Babers. You have a chance to get a ranked win at home. You already got your moral victory in a sense. This win would mean everything for him in keeping his job.
Sure, I agree. I think he is, to a certain degree, coaching for his job, certain degree, because he already matched what Vegas said for him, so it'd be hard to fire him off of what Vegas said. It was 3 wins. He gets through 3 wins already.
Get the ACC win.
But here's the second part. Dino Babers marches out the offense a little too late, delay of game. And that's probably the worst possible look for a head coach. 2-point conversion that you kind of need, and now you have to go for the 1, consolation prize not so much. So we're talking about this 2-point conversion, and sure, but I think what we should be talking about is how much that hurts Dino Babers and the perception of Dino Babers going forward.
What was the reaction inside the dome, too, by the way, to that delay of game? Because I'm very curious.
Well, I heard people below us screaming some expletives, but also saying, fire Dino Babers, hire Mike Leach, who is the Mississippi State head coach. So that's a little bit of blasphemy.
That would be fun.
I think. The Boo Birds were out all night, and I assume they were booing Dino Babers, maybe the referees, for making that call, but everybody was with the decision to go for it for that 2-point conversion, as they should be. I mean, they were doing that the entire game. On every single 4th down where Syracuse punted, they were booing. So you know how fans are.
How much did this hurt Dino Babers' perception in Central New York, in your opinion? Because, look, we all agree that, to a certain degree, he's coaching for his job. So perception, opinion, general consensus, that matters right now.
Yeah, I don't think it moves at all because, look, he made the correct decision. Now it just comes down to executing when it matters most. I feel like when you wake up in the morning on game day like today, you're eating your eggs, you're drinking your OJ, you're dreaming about a situation like this where you have a 2-point conversion on the line, go for it to win. This is stuff that you practice, that you go over in practice before a game. So I feel like when the time comes, you have to be ready. You have to be ready to take advantage. And like I said before, looking back at when the season ends, everyone's going to be like, what if? What if Syracuse was able to get that playoff? What if they converted
Syracuse
that?
had a head coach that did something for them between the 1st and 4th quarter?
It's fair.
I think we're putting a lot of blame on Dino Babers, so let's do some more, shall we?
Might not get much out of me.
We still have some kerosene here. We could pour some of that on.
The 3rd and 13, holding call, makes it 3rd and 23 instead of 4th and 13. What was your thoughts on that one? We talked about it a little bit earlier. I think Brad and we both agree that he should have just declined it and forced Skiba to kick the field goal.
Oh, are you talking when Wake Forest converted on that 3rd and 23? All right, well, here's the thing with that. Syracuse rushes 3. Stephon Thompson is right there to make a play on the football. Instead of looking at the receiver, who I think it was Roberson who ended up making that catch and moving the chains, he's looking at the ball. Roberson goes right in front of him, flashes right before his eyes, makes the catch, and moves the sticks. I think Tony White should have sent the blitz. I mean, Syracuse was getting consistent pressure all night, getting to Hartman, bringing him down, and in that situation, SCU rushes 3, drops 8 into coverage, and it doesn't work out. So it's plays like that.
That's not even the question, John. I think the question is, should they even have been in that situation?
Yes, that's fair. I did kind of dodge that question. I think you do take that penalty. The defense was playing well at that point in the game. Yes, I think you do. Because think about it. What Wake Forest did well today was hit on those big shots. You're not going to hit a big shot, in theory, on a 3rd and 23, especially when you drop 8 into coverage. So, again, I think it just comes down to execution there and perhaps play calling. I think you take that penalty.
But there were a lot of deep balls today that hit for Wake Forest.
But this is
so
8 in coverage, not one-on-one. You know what I'm saying?
True. I get where you're coming from. 315-443-2011, the number to dial if you want to talk to myself, Brad Klein, John Eads, our reporter who is inside the dome. He'll be on the show for a little bit longer, or you can tweet at us at WAER Sports Talk. John, so we're saying this is the biggest game of the year because Wake Forest is probably going to be Syracuse's only ranked opponent. They're 6-0. It was Parents Weekend, so you had that atmosphere inside the dome. But now we go to next week. It's going to be a short week. You'll be, I believe, on the double overtime next week?
That's correct.
For that Clemson game?
Big for you.
Yes,
yeah,
looking forward to it.
Welcome to the show.
Yes.
Although you've been on it more times than me.
Tyler, don't do yourself like that, brother. You're good.
Next week, what do you want to see in this short week from Syracuse from an improvement standpoint to get better for Clemson? Is there any changes you want to see immediately?
Not that I can think of. Everything I saw from the really, I guess the only change is to get healthy. Syracuse had a ton of injury problems today on the offensive line, defensive line, really all over the field. So I think biggest thing is to get healthy and then start scouting Clemson. I think the biggest thing that you can't do in that game, like we saw today, is leave your corners one-on-one on islands because, as you saw, they got exposed more often than not.
More often than not. Aaron Service got hurt. I don't think he came back into the game.
I did see him, I thought. He wasn't in for the first series, but I did see him later on in the contest. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah. But you had Kalen Ellis out there, true freshman, starting at left guard, no Chris Bleich. And then Josh Aloa was starting at center in place of Service, I believe.
Yeah, that's a big move for him, too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I got a text from our engineer, Matt Bonaparte. James from Liverpool says, why do we spend money on a dome roof and not a good coach? James, we'll bring you onto the show right here. Welcome to the Double Overtime. Do you want to expand further on that point? All right. I guess, James, you there?
Yes.
All right, James, expand further on that point.
Oh, I was just thinking if we had a decent coach, we might have a couple more wins.
That is a very fair point.
And I don't know what you guys think, but the only win I see down the road is Boston College. I don't see us beating anybody else.
Wow.
I mean, that is a very fair point. The dome
we have no defense. There's no defense all this year. I mean, how many points are we giving up? We're giving up so many points, it's ridiculous.
40.
40 points, but the defense, the
game went to overtime.
Yeah.
Those
no,
big
but I'm
plays,
just saying, you can't give up 20 or 30 points every game.
In the ACC, if not the country.
20 or 30 points every game.
Well, 20 points, not bad.
You know what I mean?
Get what you're saying. Thank you for the call.
It's a good point, though, John. I mean, you mentioned big plays, and of course, that's an indisputable part of this game. I think back to Florida State. You know, they give up 33 points to Florida State, and if you ask me, that's unacceptable.
That game was junk, though. Just pure junk.
Sure.
It was atrocious.
But what happened? Right? A lot of big runs for Jordan Travis, all about containment, right? And you mentioned that earlier. I think there are some simple fixes to this defense. I don't know if it's an easy fix, and I'm not going to put that on Dino Babers. Again, Lord knows I'm putting plenty on him, but I'm not going to put that on Dino Babers. And the new roof, it's a cheap shot.
It looks beautiful.
Syracuse needed the new roof, though, right? And by the way, semantics, how you getting a good coach in here without a nice facility, right? Dino Babers, Dino Babers could be making more money elsewhere. And as crazy as that sounds, after 2018, he was getting some SEC calls. I'm not even lying to you. Ole Miss was interested. Ole Miss wasn't going to pay him $1.5 million? That's what he's making for Syracuse. It's a discount. For a Power 5 coach, discount. He could have been making double, maybe triple that anywhere else. He didn't take that job because he stayed at Syracuse. Was it a mistake? Yeah, big mistake. Was he offered a job? I don't know. Probably not, because if he was, he'd probably be gone. But they get a new roof. They needed a new upgrade, a new facility, and they got it. That's not why they gave up 40 points. Let's calm down, in my opinion.
I don't really get everyone's beef with Dino either. Syracuse took a ranked Wake Forest team. This is going to be a good Wake Forest team when it's all said and done this season, to the wire. And people are calling for his head.
Well, I'll tell you why. And I think it's a lot. It's very similar to the frustration with this team right now. I started with this show with, hey, what happened? The defense is supposed to be good. It's not good. We were sold something we weren't buying, right? Dino Babers comes in. Believe without evidence. Believe in the things unseen. And he's supposed to be a player's coach, a guy that relates to the guys and whatever. And
doing great, by the way.
I'm not saying that he's not a player's coach, but the whole point of Dino Babers was recruitment. And that's not a secret, right? Dino Babers came in to be the Syracuse head recruiter, not head coach. And who has he recruited?
It's been more and more 3 stars and 2 stars. Guys,
Deuce Chestnut
is his separate soapbox. It's difficult.
Okay, but Deuce Chestnut is his crown jewel recruiter, and they didn't lose because of recruitment here, but that's why the frustration is here, and it's penting up, it's building up, and it's going to explode when you lose a game that you completely could have won.
Fair enough. But again, I think it was something in itself that Syracuse was even in this game and all the way to the final buzzer, literally.
Sure. No, I mean, sure. But I think at the end of the day, I think callers like that who call and say, the new roof, it's because they're demanding more. Syracuse fans expect more.
But they should be.
They deserve more.
They should be demanding more.
It should not be a treat to lose to Wake Forest by 3. I don't care if Wake Forest is 19th in the country. Am I going to say it wasn't an impressive performance? No, it was impressive. But Syracuse's goal has to not only be to win these games, it should be to expect to be in these games at home.
Yeah.
That's the big deal.
Sure.
That's why people are frustrated.
One last thing before we go to break. The recruiting standpoint, Syracuse moved to the ACC for football reasons.
Yeah.
Mainly. Money reasons, and it hasn't really worked out from that standpoint. The recruiting, you get more better players. Syracuse has been a doormat. But I digress. Coming up after the overtime, John Eads, thank you so much for joining us. Great to always talk to you.
Nice tie.
Great tie,
pink
great
or purple?
jacket.
It's magenta.
Thank you.
Coming up on the double overtime, we will preview that game next week that John Eads will be on the double overtime for against Clemson inside the Dome. Stay with us right here on WAER.
Back here on the double overtime from the Ostrom Avenue studios alongside Tyler Melito, I'm Brad Klein, wrapping a bow on this matchup between Syracuse and Wake Forest, a 40-37 narrow dub for the Demon Deacons, and the Orange walk away disappointed, unfulfilled.
And now sitting at 500 as well, 3-3.
0-2 in the ACC, though, and they have a big test against Clemson on a bye. Now, bottom line, Syracuse back in the Dome to host Clemson next week. That name alone can scare a lot of people, but it has not been business as usual for the Tigers. WAER's Braden Reed dives into what's gone wrong for them this year.
Up next on the schedule for Syracuse football are the big bad Clemson Tigers. This isn't quite the Clemson of years past. No Trevor Lawrence under center, there's no Travis Etienne beside him, and there's certainly no DeAndre Hopkins out wide. For the first time since 2014, the Tigers are unranked. Death Valley just doesn't have that same atmosphere we've come to expect. Just last week, Boston College went down to Clemson with their backup quarterback and almost won. BC was one bad snap away from pulling off the upset.
Play clock is down to 2, and it's fumbled, and Clemson comes up with the football. The Tigers have it. KJ Henry picks up the fumble.
So what's gone wrong for the Tigers this year? The most glaring issue is the quarterback. Sophomore DJ Uiagalelei hasn't looked like the guy everyone expected him to be. In 2020, he filled in for Trevor Lawrence, who was going through COVID protocols. In 2 games, he racked up almost 800 passing yards and 6 total touchdowns. The hype was real entering 2021. DJ opened the 2021 season with the second best odds to win the Heisman. But it hasn't been the start everyone was hoping for. The California native has just 3 passing touchdowns in 5 starts and an equal amount of interceptions.
In the pocket. Intercepted! Jumping to route is Christopher Smith. A foot race. Can the quarterback catch him? He cannot. Pick 6, Georgia.
But Uiagalelei isn't the only problem. The Tigers' offense as a whole ranks 118th in the nation in yards per game. That's out of 130 teams. The defense, on the other hand, might be the only reason this team is gutting out wins. The unit ranks 4th in the country, giving up just 12 points a game. College football analyst Paul Feinbaum thinks Clemson's best days are behind them.
And I really do think this program has peaked. And I know that's an opinion, but what else do we have here this morning? But the trajectory is really bad.
That downward trajectory could bode well for SU. Historically, it's no secret that Syracuse has had trouble with Clemson. The Orange are just 2-7 all-time against the Tigers. But this won't be a normal game between the two sides. Like I mentioned earlier, Clemson is unranked for the first time since 2014. In the 9 games the two sides have played all time, the Tigers have been ranked every single time. This time around, the two sides are about as equal as they've ever been as members of the ACC. At the end of the day, it's still a good football team traveling to the Dome next weekend, but maybe, just maybe, the Orange can turn back the clock to 2017.
The upset pulled by the Orange. They defeat Clemson 27-24.
Braden Reed, WAER Sports.
Thanks to ESPN and the ACC Network for sound used in that piece. So Braden Reed putting Clemson under the microscope, specifically DJ Uiagalelei. And we're going to talk about this matchup. It's a big game for Syracuse. First, I got to do something. Tyler, you know I love you. I'm putting you in a position to fail. Let's do this. You got your laptop in front of you, right?
I do.
You got DJ Uiagalelei. Oh, I actually thought he was going to get it, too. You know what?
Where'd I get rid of?
No, there's it's a premature I.
Yeah.
All right. However you say it, however you spell it, DJ Uiagalelei really hasn't been that good this year. 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Clemson gets a bye, and they needed it, right? Because the Tigers, they haven't looked like the Tigers, and that's been an issue. Dabo Swinney's team unranked for the first time since, the Cavemen, right? And there's a reason that we were saying at the top of the show that Wake Forest is the biggest game of the year, much to the chagrin of some callers. It's because Clemson hasn't been any good.
There's a reason why this game, we knew it was going to be 7 p.m. on ESPN on Friday night inside the Dome for so long, because everyone thought that Clemson was going to be near the top or the number 1 team in the country.
And now, totally winnable game.
3-2 overall, 2-1 in the ACC. They're coming off a loss, if I'm not mistaken.
Technically coming
off the bye, but their last game, they won against Boston College and they lost the week
Narrow
before.
win.
Narrow win, 19-15.
With a backup quarterback that Boston College has all year. By the way, coming down the home stretch here, 6 minutes left in the show, 315-443-2011. If you want to get your voice heard, because we're wrapping up with Clemson, but hey, we're the voice of the people. We're going to take the show any direction they want.
Got to give the people what they want.
Sure. What's that from again?
Jalen Rose.
Oh,
Jalen Jacoby.
I do not like that show.
That's
not
on you.
That's tough.
Here's one thing I want to talk about with Clemson.
So Clemson, all right, we could talk about DJ Uiagalelei all we want.
But there's something I think that's more pressing.
How about that defense?
The defense, they've been
best in the ACC.
Best in the 12
points per game.
You're beating me to the gun, man.
Gotcha.
God. But here's my biggest concern. They're allowing 12 points per game, but they're averaging about 21, a shade over it.
Yeah.
This is not the Clemson of Trevor Lawrence. This is not the Clemson of Deshaun Watson when he's here. Clemson of Taj Boyd when he was here all those years ago.
Kelly Bryant?
Yeah, sure. For that 1 year. That 1 year where he got hurt against Syracuse, and then they had to bring in Trevor Lawrence. And then Trevor Lawrence
wasn't Trevor Lawrence.
Got hurt, and then it was another guy.
It was not Trevor Lawrence. It was Chase Bryce.
Was that that was the same year, though. It was our freshman year.
Yeah, maybe.
Lawrence got
Chase
hurt.
Bryce came in the second half of that game.
Regardless. This offense has been atrocious so far. I thought the return of Justin Ross would be so helpful for DJ Uiagalelei. Hasn't worked out. And I think the big thing that everyone was talking about, everyone's like, oh, Trevor Lawrence, him not being here, sucks for them. This offense is going to suck. But I think what's made a bigger impact is the loss of Travis Etienne to the NFL.
Sure. I mean, look, that's important. They lost their left tackle, too.
True.
So there's that. Look, Clemson is finally showing that they can bleed. They're like any other team. You lose your left tackle and your star quarterback and your star running back, something bad's going to happen. And this is it.
And a star receiver in Amari Rodgers.
Right, yeah. I mean, that's a good point. And Amari Rodgers goes in, the 3rd round, right?
He's in Green Bay now.
Yeah, and that was a good pick for Green Bay, too.
2A Rodgers.
Huge for Matt Bonaparte on the other side of the glass, too. I will say this. Clemson loses some key guys. I think a lot of people are surprised because they're Clemson, so they should be recruiting some guys. And everyone's like, oh, well, yeah, they lost their quarterback, but don't they have a really good quarterback ready to go? It's DJ Uiagalelei.
Showed signs against Notre Dame.
No, he's supposed to be the guy. He number one recruit in his class overall, not just quarterbacks. And he's underperformed, and in a way he's being put in a position to fail with the personnel changes, but expectations all over the place. I mean, you're replacing Trevor Lawrence. How's that going to happen?
It's not going to happen easily. DJ Uiagalelei showed signs last year, though, in the couple of games that Trevor Lawrence missed because of COVID. Had that great game against Notre Dame in South Bend. Then the next week, I don't remember who it was. Clemson almost lost, but then Uiagalelei held on, played well. I believe that game, I want to say it was against Boston College, but I could be wrong.
Maybe you are wrong. We'll see.
But
hey, we're putting a bow on this show, right?
Are we?
Bottom line is Syracuse, the defense was good. The Clemson offense, I think we can agree, has not been very strong this year. I think this actually might be the matchup that the Orange need to get back on track on the defensive side. But offensively, this is where Garrett Trader will be tested. We mentioned before, 12 points per game that Clemson is allowing. That's one of the best marks in the country. That's the best mark in the ACC. How good is that good run game? We're going to find out. Give me a prediction real quick.
I want to say Syracuse bounces back, but Clemson's Clemson. They've had Syracuse's number ever since that game in 2017 inside the Dome. I'm going to go Clemson in a close one.
Wow. If there ever was a year to beat Clemson, wouldn't it be this one?
It would be this one, but it wouldn't mean it would mean a lot to Syracuse fans and Syracuse players, but it wouldn't mean as much in terms of Clemson being the powerhouse.
No, of course it wouldn't mean as much, but that's why you got to beat them this year. This is your golden chance, right? Yeah. Hey, I think Syracuse is going to win. Narrow one. But they're bound for an ACC win. It's coming next week. I think it would be a good game, though.
I wouldn't be shocked if Syracuse won, especially since Clemson, you mentioned all the recruiting stuff, have not brought anyone in from the transfer portal.
No.
They got that. That's something that they got to look at long term. But
that's a big thing. We're wrapping up here. Matt Bonaparte on the other side of the glass. He's the engineer pushing mostly the right buttons. So far, so good.
He's done great today, Matt.
We still have about 45 seconds left, so he could make a mistake.
He won't.
We'll see.
He won't.
We'll see. Kyle Lochran, the producer, he's doing a great job. The entire WAER Sports Talk desk, outstanding job as always. 40-37, Wake Forest survives Syracuse, the Orange, 0-2 in ACC play. We'll catch you next time on the Double Overtime.